And g'day everybody, welcome to another Step Outside podcast. Today we're chatting to a very interesting fella that I've known for many, many years. His name is Mark Forbes. Hey mate, how are you?
Well, I'm well, Bertie. Interesting. It can mean a lot of things.
It can do because, mate, you've covered it off a lot. And a familiar voice that a lot of you guys might recognise around the country as well. Mate, tell me about Mark Forbes.
Oh, well, we are...
How did you...
start.
To kick it off as a young fella, where'd you grow up?
The abbreviated version, Newcastle boy, still a Knights supporter. And
How'd they go this year, mate?
Yeah, better.
All right.
Better than some of the previous years. So,
better than the Broncos.
You didn't have to be going that well to be better than the Bronx this year,
better
did
than
you?
the Titans then.
Well, yeah, just marginally. But
yeah.
Look, Newcastle. If you didn't follow the Knights and live there, then you get run out of town. But high school in Adelaide. Parents were a bit nomadic. Grew up as a Sparky, did an apprenticeship as that. Got out before I killed someone or myself. I wasn't sure who was going to go first.
Red is black, black is red.
Just
which one's live?
Useless.
Yeah, touch that.
Yeah, red with red, black with black, and every two's a pair. I think someone told me. But
yeah, I worked out with American stuff because if you're doing your own Sparky stuff, like you're going to change a plug. I just thought blue is black because therefore in America blue is black, black and blue. When you get beat up as a kid, I used to get beat up, and you'd always come home black and blue. That's the way, in my head, I work out what's positive and what's negative.
Yeah, so needless to say, you don't do a hell of a lot there with the electrical in the house, do you?
I'm still standing.
Fluoro hanging off the wall over there.
Don't worry about it, mate. It's all good. It's okay. It's shuddering and flickering, but I'll fix it later.
So it really wasn't my thing. And then always grew up with my dad keen on the horses, racing, part of our lives, and he'd always do the party trick and call a phantom race of some description. So I'd heard enough of the 1962 Melbourne Cup over the years to learn a bit about even Stevens winning that race, but I guess I probably would have liked to have had a go at that myself, but just looked for the opportunity to do that. So I got tangled up in electrical, then a bit of hospitality work, and rolled into a few sales jobs.
Yep.
Eventually, I banged on a few doors and got in with Sky Channel's a team that helped me out a little bit back in the early days to go to Gosford Race Club to learn how to call a race.
Okay. Did you ever stuff it up when you're calling a race?
Well, look, to be brutally honest, I only ever called a few in the country.
Right.
I started out calling barrier trials, and I must have driven the owners mad because it's way more difficult than you think it is. And for the barfly abusing the caller in a tight finish, I marvel at their accuracy these days. But look, I was only so-so. I was there for the colour and the party after a couple of beers and, call this one or call that. But then I got into calling a bit of footy, community radio. I was in with Gosford Race Club, a little bit with Wyong, and then got a gig with 4BH back in like the early 90s when they were doing a sport and talk format.
Yep. Nice.
So, rolled into town and helped Kenny Hose with the local sports show and worked in the newsroom there. Absolutely no qualifications at all. Learned on the job and loved it, really. And that led to other opportunities within the media, so much so that I ended up at 4TAB and about 3 or 4 years into my time there, after doing mainstream racing, I decided that, the management decided as well that sports bet was going to be a big thing.
Yep.
So I started the first sports breakfast radio show there.
How was it? Because that's how we hooked up pretty much when it went to, you wanted to include some fishing and a bit of outdoorsy stuff, weather and all that, if I'm correct. Jog my memory.
Well, I mean, I had the approach that the greater variety of the program, the more listeners that you would attract and different styles of listeners. So we made it different with your segment, that's for sure. And I just loved the fact that we had really no idea where it was going to go until you said good morning and I said the same.
And I still don't know.
What are we going to talk about? It's got to be water related.
But it worked.
It worked.
It worked a treat because people related to that. I wouldn't say the bosses relate to it. I'll tell you what, bosses don't relate to jack shit of what you're talking about, but it's the community that relate to it. And to me, that's the whole means of it, really, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Look, there wasn't a sports betting market that you could have a little flutter on about how many mackerel were running down the coast. So we sort of broke the mould there, but I really didn't bother a lot. You know, my idea was that if you were a character, and then people got a bit of a laugh out of it, and then 20 minutes later they heard a price on a game of tennis, then they might have a flutter. So I reckon we had a hoot, but there was never any lack of material. No. There was always something going on that we could talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if we made it up, which hopefully it was.
It made no sense at all.
That's the thing. We're so good at telling shit that we actually believe it now. That's the way I look at it. No, I'm only kidding everybody. It is all factual. It's all definitely factual.
But that did give you the opportunity to come and play for the TAB Queensland cricket team. I mean, that within itself was a mighty fine time.
It was mighty fine. I got this phone call, right, from Mark, and he said, "You play cricket?" And I'm going to be honest with you, right? I'm an Aussie, right? True blue Aussie. You should be playing backyard cricket with a bin out the back on the road, and you're hitting the bin, right? Well, I did play that, but I was the most useless person ever with a cricket bat. So Mark rings on and he goes, "Do you play cricket?" I said, "Yeah, I love cricket." And he goes, "How good?" I said, "I'm a star. I'm awesome at this game." I couldn't play for squat. Next minute, we're down in Melbourne, right? I'm on Australia's team of TAB representatives.
Yeah, we're playing all the other states, and I say to the captain at the time, because he quizzes me, "Who have you got?" I said, "Don't worry." I said, "He's built like a lumberjack, this bloke." In the crisis, pinch hitting, birdie rolls out. He'll save the day.
I'm looking somewhere. Keep going, mate. Keep going. I got something here.
The ball will sail over the fence at Moorabbin, and we will win, and you will thank me forever that I found this fellow. Yeah. Because I think they thought that I was going to get some cricketing guru, but it wasn't. I said, "I've got the guy that does the fishing report." He'll save the cricket team. Well, little did I know how wrong I was.
I have got the broken stump here somewhere. I've got to find it because I went out. This guy, I think he played. Was it the Prime Minister 11 or 9 or how many people on the cricket side? That's how good I'm.
Well, there's 11, and when you travel, we had about 8 reserves.
Mate, I remember walking out on the field and everyone's laughing because I didn't realise there's a left and right to knee pads.
Yes, there is.
Right,
buckled to the inside.
Yeah, well, I had the left on the right and the right on the left as I walked out. Right, and this is Forbes' idea of I've got the best cricket side in Australia, and the idiot's walking out with the left on the right and the right on the left. Right, so I walk out, and I face up to this bloke, and I'm looking down the end of the pitch. I'm thinking, this guy's a bit weedy, string. I'll just hit the ball over the fence. Well, I didn't even see the ball, right? All I remember is the stump smacking in half. It broke the middle stump in half. The top half's gone over my head. The bottom half just went out of the ground. And he came up and he pulled, this is how cocky this prick was. He actually came up and pulled a Sharpie out of his pocket and signed this stump, broken ego, broken stump, out for a duck. And I still got that stump sitting around here today.
The other half of the stump ended up somewhere we can't tell you exactly where. Well, that bowler's never walked the same.
No. He walks very upright. So I got out. So and I got to find. I had it here somewhere, but anyway, it's walking around this office. But that was a lot of fun. But the days of 4TAB, out of Brisbane there, whereabouts was it up there? It was behind the Norman Hotel.
The Albion. Yeah,
so
the thing with when the TAB decided that they were going to have their own purpose, purpose built, but when it was, the studios were very geared around, of course, covering racing. But back then, there was a lull between daytime racing and nighttime racing. So unlike today where it's wallpaper racing, right? I call it poker machine racing because you just keep going because there's always something jumping somewhere. Yeah,
mate. Going from 4TAB, you've moved on and you created an event company for yourself of getting out there to to showcase your talent to a lot of companies?
It's a really interesting question because I probably got an interesting answer somewhere in all that. Anybody that's worked in a PAYG role and then all of a sudden decide that it's time to give something else a go.
Yeah.
And sure, it was 2004. I'd just done Kokoda. And
I remember that.
I did a big fundraiser, and I was doing some voluntary work at Mount Olivet Hospital.
How did you go? How'd you travel with Kokoda, if I can ask first?
Well, yeah. I mean, but unbelievably, 2004, early 2000s. If you'd have stopped the man in the street and said, "Off to Kokoda," a few people would say, "Oh, well, it's in Turkey, isn't it?" Now you'll find that hard to believe, really. I mean, it's 2020 because every Tom, Dick, and Harry knows Kokoda, PNG.
Correct.
Such the popularity of the walk,
right?
And that part of our warring history.
Yes,
but it wasn't readily known by all friends and family. They just gone, "Oh, where are you going?" I said, "Oh, we're going to go and do this Kokoda walk." So it's just become commercialised.
Yes.
And
it's a good word for it, actually, unfortunately.
Well, there was a bloke called Charlie Lynn who kind of was up there, one of the real initial pioneers of taking walks. And there's just literally bucket loads of companies.
But it's a good thing in a way to have a lot of Aussies going to do that, because it showcases what our ancestors, what our troops did to save our country, to defend our country. And war through those jungles of PNG.
Yes, I'm still amazed, and I marvel at how in the blazes that happened. There would have been maybe 15, 20 guys on our walk, and everyone had their own little angle on why they decided it was a good thing to do.
Yeah.
From maybe losing a few kegs and going up for a look. To me, there was some really deeper things. I mean, I had an anxiety about walking in the bush, if you can believe it. Now I'm going to the second densest jungle in the world.
So, leeches, was it?
No, just anxiety.
Is that right?
Yeah, panic attack.
Yeah, okay.
I'm in uncharted territory here. Can't get out. Oh my God, meltdown.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I was about 1.5 feet from the doctor for the first day or two, just in case I needed to have something.
And how'd you go, mate?
Well,
you conquered it.
Well, I did. When I say conquer, you just get through it. You work through it, and everyone seems to have their moment.
Right.
And you tend to help others along the way. What I fell in love with that product, for use of another word, was that guys traditionally sit around and talk about their stuff over a couple of schooners, and we weren't very good. We're getting a lot better at talking about your thing, but unless you topped up with a few beers, you probably didn't open up. Well, there was nowhere to hide, and there certainly wasn't the local bar that you were pulling into each night. Yeah. So you found yourself actually talking about the fact that you couldn't have children, or you couldn't cope with this, or there was maybe troubles with your son or your daughter or whatever. I love that, and I love the fact that everyone got stronger as the walk went on. And I probably addressed a lot of my mental issues at that point, and it was a fabulous thing. We got to Isarava, where the four pillars are on Anzac morning. Put a handy, chop it in, for this little Anzac moment, and you just don't forget those sorts of things.
Would you do it again?
Well, my daughter's now 15. She's 16 in April. Likes to get out and walk and do, and I think if she ever said to me, "Dad, would you train up to do that?" I would. She's going to do the Kokoda Challenge.
Yeah, okay, up in spring.
In the hinterland, and so if she gets a thirst for something a bit more adventurous, then I would I'd certainly tackle that with her. But great thing. Raised 120,000 and bought the bus for Mount Olivet Hospital.
Nice,
and I was working as a volunteer in the palliative care unit at that point, which. Incidentally, you learn that many things about life. It
puts things into perspective.
It did. I was living in Holland Park at the time, and I can remember still training to do the walk, and I'd go and do my shift at Mount Olivet, and I was leaving there one afternoon or evening, and I can remember just like one of those epiphanies, those magic moments. Light goes on, and I'm going, "Oh, geez, you know what? I've been here for about 4 or 5 months," and not one person that's got a week or a day to live, because that's literally the area that you work within, ever talked about the flash car, ever talked about, the big speedboat or anything like that. When you sat and talked with these people, it was always about the big six over the back fence, or the big fish that they caught, or they're going to miss that time barbecues or on a Sunday afternoon with the family. And that was, and I'm sure that there would have been people there that had the flash cars and all of those materialistic things.
That's true, yeah.
And I can remember ringing, my wife at the time, saying, "Hey, just got one of those moments." It took me about 5 months to figure that out, but it's surprising where you can draw strength and where you find things in the most unlikely places.
You went through a fairly dark period of your life, obviously, mate. Recently, or a few years ago, I should say. It's recent, mate. Tell me about that. How did you handle that? How did you get to that level?
Well, I mentioned the anxiety of walking in the bush. I think that those that do suffer from anxiety in general terms are susceptible for tricky mental issues that can challenge them. Not always. I think that it can just come on, but any which way, probably 18 months ago, Bertie, I was running around emceeing things and
because that was your gig. You moved into that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I did, and actually, I probably got right off on the wrong tram line there, because one of your original questions was rolling out of the radio days.
That's all right.
And then I looked at a bucket load of phone numbers. And I thought, well, I can't go back to the electrical work. A pair of pliers. What?
Yeah, that's
red.
right, yeah.
What was the colours again?
Purple. All right.
So I'm thinking, what am I going to do?
Can a Sparky do it if they're colourblind?
Can a Sparky do it?
Yeah,
if
like,
there are.
There are colourblind Sparkies.
Yeah. No one wants to work with them.
No.
But
this no.
I work alone. And it was back to my PAYG thing.
Yeah.
That if you start then finally to work for yourself, you trust everyone. Everyone's a good bloke. Yep. And then after about 2 or 3 years, you realise actually there's no money in the bank, and that you're working out. That's a great idea. Why actually didn't that there to get off the ground? Because he said, "Yeah, sure, I love what you're talking about. Let's do that." Never ever happened. So it was an interesting learning period, to work out then, how do I stay afloat? How do I manage this business? And my business then really became hosting events, I suppose, coordinating speakers to different styles of events. I got the contract with Men of League, and we kind of got in with the early days with Mark Murray and Oscar Vivas and those sorts of lads, getting that off the ground. So, and then I had a gymnasium with Max Kennedy. Big Max, he played for the Lions for a number of years, and we had a little thing going next to the Gabba. Always running around weekends doing this sort of work. Then over time, I think, you up until a couple of years ago, your personal life sort of changes again, and I was really challenged. I think I probably had. I said to someone, I'm throwing oranges in the air and I'm catching strawberries. I really couldn't make sense of I'm on this path, and I said I'm just going to support other people around me, and really probably not supporting myself, and then felt whack. Hit the wall. Teary, couldn't get out of bed, really struggled, and I had a close network of friends around me that could see that I wasn't well. So much so that convinced me that it was time to seek some help, and I damn well knew I needed it.
Tell me about the your analogy of life there with the blue pool, green pool.
Well, because it really, when you have time to think about why and what's going on for you, and you realise then, the chemistry in your body dictates a lot about how you feel. Some of us endowed with, the right levels of serotonin to make them feel good about themselves and keep them through the day. I battled, a lot with my chemistry, and I think because I'd fried and I was running around and just doing too much, psychologist said, you have to become selfish. You have to walk out of this room here now and not so much worry about other people as much as you do. My default setting. That's what I do. That's what I like. And so I took her advice, and I got some medication as well. And the chemical balance, I said, it was like me looking out at a pool and thinking, the pool's green and I'm feeling like a green pool, and I'm stagnating, and I stink, and I don't feel right, and I need to turn my chemistry back to blue. And of course, I needed some help to do that, and it was never going to improve by just simply looking out the next morning. Hey, well, you wouldn't believe it. The pool fairies came in overnight, and look at that pool. It's glistening. It's blue. So, I always liken it to the green and the blue pool. And, you know, if your chemistry's not quite there, then you might need a bit of acid. Well, you know. Can you cut that bit out? Let me go with the alkaline increaser.
Oh, shit.
You want that analogy again, or you cut?
No, I like that one. Well done. For anyone out there who's listening, they're driving their car, working in gym, whatever they're doing, listening to this podcast, what, and they're feeling down about themselves. What's your thoughts being there in a dark place to help these people through by saying what advice can you give?
Well, I back to just quickly that point that you're not going to wake up tomorrow and feel better. You know, this is
great advice.
Once you get low.
Freaking awesome.
So
sorry about that.
And cut that bit out as well.
But you got to change.
The point there.
Change, though?
How do you change? Well, I think that what I like to think, and look, I'm generalising here. So everyone's going to be different. We're all wired differently.
Absolutely.
And it'll be something else that'll give somebody that impetus to get up and go and seek some help.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, for me and for a lot of others that I know, without that professional assistance, then you're just not going to navigate out of it. You're not going to click your fingers and think that you're feeling better again.
You need to speak up and talk about it.
You 100%.
Yeah.
And, you know, Gary Belch is a dear friend of mine, and he lives down near home, and, you know, we walk and talk a lot about
True great Queensland state of origin player.
Oh,
mate,
was it 15? He'll chip me for this, but I think it was 15. It was either 15 Tests, 16 Origins, or the other way around.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you know,
it's a lot.
Ask him about the great grand final, and he'll tell you about the Raiders beating the Tigers. But you know, I'm fortunate that I've got a few guys that are happy to talk about that, and with entertainers or people that, you know, are in the public eye, the ability to be able to get up and get your mind to a place where you have to perform and then shut it down and then just, you know, and go again and up and go and up and go. That's and it might not be entertainers. It might be just a role that you've got at the moment where, it could be kids, just challenges where you've got to get up and come down, get up, come down. So first and foremost, if you've got a mate, and if he starts to laugh or giggle, just say, "Hey, mate, you know, no, I'm being fair dinkum. I really need to talk with you, and this is where I'm at. There's no shame in any of this, and I'm certainly not the first person to publicly talk about. And thankfully, that this is now shared by a lot of other people that go through similar things, and then GP. To discuss this, and if you haven't got a good GP, find one. Yeah, and it really does, and it should bring you back to the core of our existence, and family and friends will dictate the level of enjoyment that you will ever have in your life. Anyone that tries to tell you anything differently, I don't think they're on the right track. And we've seen and know of lots of people sitting in palatial surrounds that couldn't be any more miserable.
Yeah, and that's right.
And then sheer thought of having some barbecue or when people over, then that's never going to happen because no one's going to go there. Yeah, you know, that's awfully sad.
Yeah,
but yes, look, Bertie. That's no one's immune from this in the sense that it doesn't discriminate. If you're susceptible, sure, your likelihood is that you've dealt with some minor anxiety and you've been able. People around you have kept you up buoyant, and for whatever reason, life hasn't been too bad. But if you're living a life, when I was single for quite a long time and by myself, and coming home after a gig or whatever, and looking and going, well, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then, you really are challenged.
Yeah. Mate, been there, done that. I think when you hit rock bottom is when you actually take a different perspective of life. But people who'll try and give you advice have no idea really aren't the people who are going to give you the right advice.
They won't. And there's a lot of guys, and girls, I guess, too, but there's a lot of fellas that won't get it, that can't identify. Well, come on, man.
Yeah.
We'll go and do this and it'll all be cool. Well, no, it ain't going to be all cool.
Yeah.
And I can remember the psychologist telling me that, you will see the light.
Yeah.
And my God, I'm thinking, well, I doubt very much whether you're right, but I'm going to suggest that you are. And, you do. Eventually, the pool starts to right itself, and each day is another step forward. Exercise is a great thing. If you can just find the energy and the way to get out of that house, to walk out of that door. Don't know how you're going to must just find a way. And however minute that little walk or wherever it might be, just onto the road and down and look around. And extend on that a little bit each day.
Good on you, mate. It's those words that probably and hopefully help someone who's listening who is going through that at the moment.
That led me into some work in more recent times with those that are really less fortunate than a lot of us.
So, mate, COVID hit you. I mean, that would have been difficult in having from all your seeds sown, so to speak, from a dark 2019 coming into 2020. MC work's dried up. You rethought where you wanted to go. NDIS, what is that?
Well, I knew nothing apart from the term being used on news bulletins about a disability insurance scheme, but what even that meant I didn't know. I mentioned, that a good mate of mine, he's a young bloke, and I'll mention his name because he'll watch and listen. But Max Kennedy is a young lad that goes to Miami High, and I started to do a little bit of support work with.
Now, I've met Maxie before.
You have.
Out in the water, off the Gold Coast Seaway, where he was fishing with yourself around Wavebreak Island. Okay, now I felt for you guys because you're in about a 3.7 metre Quintrex, and I believe it was a Sunday. And I believe it was probably the busiest day I've ever seen on the waterways with 50-foot boats, putting waves out at least 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And you guys are in this tinny, and I'm looking at you thinking, this is, this is not good.
Clearly a numbskull in charge of that. Yeah. Did I look reassuring to Max that we were in the right place?
It was gold, but Maxie had a good time, he was out fishing with you.
Well, oddly enough, well, his hero was you, believe it or not, because he just, when I say hero, he just loved the fishing reports, and his ability to be able to feel at home near the water and sit for long periods of time and fish was quite extraordinary. Autism's a tricky thing, and it depending upon, I guess, where you are on the so-called spectrum, dictates a little bit about how you manage life. And
some people with autism favour towards animals. They might favour towards painting. Maxie favoured towards fishing.
And good at it.
Yep.
Just was a natural. His granddad had done a lot of work with him, nice. and prepped him up. He just loves being on the water, and forever looking at ways and means. And I wasn't the greatest tutor, as you know from the radio days. But I think actually he taught me more than I was certainly was teaching.
Just nod and smile, mate.
Yeah, they're just not here today again. And don't look at that over there where he's bagged out. So, you know, and so I was starting to do some work with Maxie soon after I probably went through that little dark period.
Yeah.
And then hit COVID, and I've gone, well, rightio, now what do I do? And I banged on a few doors. I spoke to some people doing that kind of work. I was really actually going to go and do a Cert 3 in disability support work at that time.
Right.
But then realised that, hang on, I need some dough.
Yeah.
And the industry's changed a lot. You know, you can qualify to do some support care work with specific clients, and without needing, I guess, a whole bucket load of qualifications. Certainly you need the important ones, and then it's up to the client then really to appoint, if they're a self-managed fund, then who they would prefer to have doing some work. They're either their son or their daughter, whatever the case.
You're not the guy that just sits back and goes, right, okay, I'm going to turn up, I need to do what I do. You're actually a hands-on fella. You like to get out and experience and get that person moving, get that person out and about, get them to do things that maybe they love that other people are not. Is there an email address that you?
Well, Game On International. Game On International's my little business. I think was it Toyota that went Game On before Toyota.
Yeah, good on you, mate.
Yeah,
so they took it off you.
Well, I was Game On before that Toyota. Well, I'm thinking it was Toyota.
Yeah, okay.
But it was that term had just started to become a little popular.
Yeah, okay. I like that name. It's a good name. Is it registered?
Yes. I had to, believe it or not, I had to put international.
Really?
Yeah, one bloke.
Oh,
I got it.
no.
Game On International.
Yeah, okay.
So every now and then I ring my London office and see how things are doing there, and I check in with the people in Tokyo. And not.
No, that's it, mate. You won't be flying over there for a little while. I can assure you.
Yeah, look, it's given me the chance to do a lot of variety from the Ekka.
Yeah.
You know, hosted the Ekka Nights with Kimberly Busted for 1 year. And that was good fun.
Yeah.
Lots of different styles of events. But and we've worked on a fair few things ourselves, so it's been good, mate. You know,
mate. Most famous person you've met? You've got a lot of sporting identities up your sleeve.
The most famous that I didn't meet. Well, we went to cover a golf event, and well, by coverage I mean we walked around with a couple of tinnies, and we just happened to get the passes to attend.
Yeah.
And Ernie Els played in the event, you know, and I was
okay.
a massive Ernie Els fan.
Yeah, wow.
So we teed up for Ernie to come on the radio program the next morning, and
Nice.
and thinking whilst we're coming home.
Yeah.
In a taxi.
Yeah.
All work related, I might add.
Of course.
Geez, Ernie, what's going to... And Ernie's no mobile phones.
Right.
You know,
Right.
certainly back then, no. It was ring reception.
Yeah, right.
He was staying at the Star, I think. Ring reception, and they'll put you through to the room. and at the time, after, a good dozen or so, that Matty and I believed that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I said he seemed sincere.
Yeah.
And all, and like a nice fellow. Jeez, I was buzzing. And so the radio program the next day and said to Riggers, the producer, look, you've just got to ring the Star.
Yeah.
And we started actually laughing as we're telling, because we sounded so incredulous. How's that going to work? Well, you wouldn't bloody believe it.
No way.
Whooshka.
He's on the phone.
Next minute we see on the little screen, who's up next. Ernie's on line 1.
You're kidding.
Not kidding.
And did you have to take an ad break? Did you keep him on hold for 6 minutes? You kept me on hold for bloody 6 minutes all the time.
I just hang on, Ernie. I'm going to do this community announcement.
We're going to play that one song of the year. Damn, it's right now.
One song gets a run of that in the American Pie.
It's a 7-minute buster.
So
Ernie Els, okay, that's good.
Ernie, there's any number. Oh, when you put on the spot. But, I was a racing tragic, so I got to meet lots of different guys in the racing industry. I do have a lot of laughs and fun with Jimmy Cassidy. He's obviously retired now.
Yeah, that's right.
But I love doing gigs with him. Fat Cat's just the funniest thing I've ever seen. Him and Malcolm Johnson, probably two of the great former sportsmen to be able to stand and deliver. So it's not a Q&A.
Right.
It's them having their prattle worked out,
Yep.
but just funny as all get out.
Yep.
Kat's a very clever fellow, and I really do enjoy working with him. You know, a lot of guys don't have that. They'll have their stories on whatever the blazes happened in their careers, and you like to deal with them. Then you'll get the surprise packet out of the blue. I mean, Brent Kite out of the blue turned out. I got him one day for like a 10-minute piece, thinking I don't know about Kitey, you know, hilarious, you know, but because he was so honest, and just loved. People go, wow, how good was that? I mean, yes, I'm just trying to rack my mind about others, but.
The football nation, like you're talking, I went to school with Scotty Sattler and played a little bit of footy with him at school, but he obviously went on, followed his dad's footsteps, John. And as tough as nails, that bloke, and a good fella as well. Yeah, the saving of that try in one of the big games, of course. Mate, I think that one there he'll never live down.
No, Will Sats will always mention the cover tackle for the mighty Panthers, you know, chopping down the rooster that was often gone. So, yeah, look, there's any number of rugby league heads. AFL, I think, you know, Brownie was always good value. Jonathan Brown, you know, just terrific, because he'd come to Brisbane just as I was kind of getting into my radio work, and he was mad keen racing, you know, the Warrnambool boy. So we got on famously anyway.
Yeah.
Jeff Horn, you know, I was taking Jeff around to some little places here and there, doing some minor promotional work way before his claim to fame. I go back to, I was living in Holland Park at the time, and when the Brisbane Lions made the first grand final appearance, and be it the fact that I had appreciation for the sport, living in Adelaide, doing my high school there, and just, you know, you can't help but not follow the sport. Yeah. And then coming back and then covering, you know, a variety of sports on a radio program. Yeah. I loved everything, particularly at the top level. But I remember going to the Holland Park Hotel, and say they had 10 TVs, 8 of them were on the races, let's just say.
Yeah.
One of them was on Days of Our Lives or some bloody soapy that was caught up in the corner. Yeah. And one, the smallest set, in the most obscure position, was covering the AFL Grand Final.
Wow.
I'm talking about a pub 7 kilometres from the Gabba.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I looked around and I kept saying to a few of the dudes, you know, okay, admittedly it's Saturday, we're caught up in the races, I get it. But do you know that Brisbane's in the AFL granny here? Yeah. And, the old aerial ping pong line and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So, you know, I'm doing a fair bit of cheering over in the corner, and of course they win. Second year, we go up to the pub. Out of the 10 tellies, 5 of them tuning up. There's actually Brisbane Lions balloons, a couple of them in the corner. Well, hang on, this is getting some traction. Right. You know, by the time the third one came, you had to book a table to get in. If you wanted to watch the races, forget it. Every TV they hired into a big set.
They got into the spirit.
They got into the spirit.
And they had to.
And they did.
Yeah.
And, you know, so...
It's good.
And that really, then, I guess the code never looked back. They've had a bit of a downtime, the Lions, and now they've come back beautifully and, you know...
Regrouped.
They've regrouped and they're looking good for the next little while anyhow.
Mate, I've got to say thank you very much for your time today. We're going to wrap it up there. Good, Game On International.
Yep.
So, okay, it's registered, by the way. So if you need to get the best man when it comes to emceeing or anything, and good chat, good storyteller, Marky Forbes. Mate, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate your time, mate.
Good on you, Birdie. Pleasure.
Good on you, champ. And, of course, that was the Step Outside podcast. Thank you for listening. Take care. And next week, we'll catch up with more colourful characters around this magnificent country of ours. Take it easy.